Once upon a time, there was a young naive film lover who walked into film school. He had many genius film ideas, many plots, stories, characters, situations that he was sure one day would win all the Oscars. He thought all he needed were the connections, or maybe just one opportunity. Come on, why wouldn't anyone just give him a couple millions to make his genius film? He had seen thousands of films, and some were way worse than his ideas. So why could those get made, but not his? It wasn't fair. However, he didn't know that he was missing something very crucial. Something that perhaps was the reason people told him that his scripts felt a bit derivative or lacking something special about them. They told him, write what you know, but he couldn't even comprehend why that was important. I mean, all he knew was filmmaking, so he should have been able to make a good film. But it didn't work like that. Of course not. After a few bad films and with the help of film school, he was finally able to understand what he was missing all that time. He had nothing to say. Yes, it's true, he had a lot of ideas, but they were all based on other films, not on something personal that he experienced, and so they felt cliché and overused, because it didn't come from him and his own life or even his own observations. In fact, he really had nothing to say.
Nothing.
That he was me, and probably you too.
That man is the imposter.
This was the most important lesson I learned during film school. Filmmaking, much like life, is not all about the final goal, but also about the journey to get there.
Sometimes it's about going there, not getting there. Sometimes it's the journey that teaches you a lot about your destination.
So as important as it is to read filmmaking books, you should also read other books. You should talk to other humans, sit in cafes, stalk random interesting people, travel, even without spending much money, maybe even go work in a place unexpected for you. Or volunteer, or basically do something that will give you stuff that you'll be interested to write about. Something meaningful. And I know, you're impatient. You want to make films now, not tomorrow. It feels urgent, feels like time is running out. I know, I've been there. I've struggled with it every day as well. But you must be patient. This isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And you don't want to rush your first feature, for it to just suck ass. It probably will anyways, but try to have it suck a bit less by finding something that is unique, truthful and personal to your own experiences. And for that, you need time. Time for allowing life to happen and your ideas to marinate. I remember when I was younger, I used to write way more often than I do now. A day going by without me writing anything was a crime, punishable by a razzie. But what I wrote then was way worse than now, almost painfully worse, because I had nothing to say. And remember that writing isn't necessarily typing. Typing anyone can do, but writing, truly writing, especially something meaningful, that's the hard part. So here's an exercise. Go for a walk, don't sit in front of your laptop, you probably already do too much of that anyways. And record yourself talking about what you love, what kind of stories you are drawn to, and why you want to tell those stories.
To begin, how to start.
Before writing anything, in film school I was taught to ask 3 questions. Why write? Why write this? And who are you writing for? I don't actually write these questions down on a piece of paper or even think about them consciously at the moment. Because with time and practice, it's something that actually becomes natural to you and unconscious. If there's nothing personal about an idea or a story, you will feel it, and you'll understand that perhaps it's not worth it to spend 3 years or more of your life on it. But before you get the hang of it, it's good to ask these questions. Of course, if you're stubborn like my younger self, you'll think every idea is worth doing and you'll shit around. Don't. You'll only be tricking yourself, not the audience. It's important to understand that filmmaking gains its value by moving people and making them want to be better versions of themselves. So first you must think, how can you be a better version of yourself? Because in a way, we need to mirror the audience and the protagonist's arc. For example, one of the features I'm working on is about a family. And in it, one of the main character's main problems mirrors kind of the same journey that I went on as I started writing the script. Because I started as well learning more about myself and my family, and that influenced the character. So go on your own journey of self-discovery. Think of something you struggle with in your life, something you wish you were better at, something funny and unique about you. Maybe there's a film there, or maybe not. But a teacher once told me, In order to move an audience, you need to first identify what moves you. And in order to figure out what moves you, consider these questions. What inspires you? What interests you? What are you most passionate about? What obsesses you?
It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
Exercise time. Write down memories you have, methodically, where you start at age 4 or 5 and then go up. You'll find a lot of great stuff there, even if most of the exercise will feel pointless. For example, let's say you start freestyle writing, building a snowman, getting a chewing gum on hair, trying the first chicken thigh, an amazing gift received from an uncle who was not very present in your life, but knew exactly what you'd love? Maybe in there you'll find a starter for a story. So don't be lazy, try it. The more personal you are, the more universal you can become. This will be something that you'll probably struggle to wrap your head around. But the more specific and personal you make your film, the more people will actually relate to it. Instinctively, it's easy to think that the most generic, the bigger the audience. But it's actually the opposite. Because we all do weird things that we don't talk about. And we will relate to the core of your problems if you show them in a truthful way, more than if you do them in a generic, cliché type of way. And that was a huge thing that I learned in film school.
Write what you know.
I know you probably heard this sentence a million times. You're probably even a bit tired of it. But I must say that it does help a lot in making your story stand out if you write it from your own experiences, from what you know. Because
once you be you, who could be you but you?
Right.
Okay, yes, perhaps write what you know is not the only way to write a good story. At school, I was taught that perhaps a better way to look at it is to write what you want to know. If you're curious about space travel, you might not be an astronomist to write a script, but you better do your freaking research. You better want to spend countless hours almost becoming an astronomist to write a good script. Research is always important, but having that desire to want to know more things about it will push you to do it properly and find a unique point of view on space travel that will make a really interesting story other than just a rehash of all the great sci-fi films. And research at least will make sure you won't end up with mammoths building the pyramids. No, seriously. Research is what will make your story stand out, but more on that on the next lesson. Like I said, in many ways, a story is as much a journey for the person writing it as for its characters. And going on that adventure with your characters is what will turn your script into something interesting, unique, and original.
Original.
Every story has already been told.
C'est pas possible.
I know, this sentence you'll always struggle with during your creative career. Everyone pretty much does. Even Da Vinci questioned if he was being original and not just copying from the greats who came before him. Thoughts of, is my story unique or am I just a talentless ripoff, will haunt you at night. But it's okay. For me, once I accepted that art was a continuous process, I was finally able to sleep. And that's what they taught me at school. Just relax, take a breath. We're all building onto the artists and the films that came before us. So still like an artist, be inspired by other works. The important thing is that we add onto what has come before. You like something and so you want to try your own spin on it? That's great. But don't just copy something you've seen because you also want to be cool and famous. Be aware of the thin line between being inspired by or ripping it off.
I mean, Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal.
Here's an exercise we did. In a group, have everyone write down a genre on one paper, an actor on another, and the location on the final one. Then mix them around in 3 different cups and take out one from each. Then try to write a story with what came out. For example, when I played this in school, I had one time Ferry Terminal, then Javier Bardem and horror. Another time I got Farm, Rita Hayworth and musical. So be creative and see what these limitations allow you to come up with. In a way, good storytelling is all about finding creative ways to tell stories, even those we've seen millions of times. But in order to have creative ideas, first we must have inspiration.
Yeah, sure, but where does the inspiration come from?
Well, that seems to be a pretty unanswerable question, even to the greatest geniuses of mankind. But in my school, they were pretty practical about it. I was told, inspiration comes from observation and life experiences. Then you must use your own imagination to turn what you've observed or questioned into interesting stories.
Hey, but what is an interesting story?
Well, teachers will argue that at their core, good stories are very simple. The basics are that something happens to someone because they are who they are and they must overcome their flaws to get what they want or need. This oversimplification will annoy you, I know, but it's okay. Some teachers say there are only 5 types of stories, others say it's 10, some say 20, and there's even some who claim there are 36. But the truth is that there's only one type of story that you wanna make, a good one.
Are we in a shit Sherlock, huh?
Wow, what a gem.
Regardless of how you feel, I guess the point is that you should focus on making a story that you think is good. Because nobody truly knows how to make a good film. There are of course some tools that we'll discuss a lot in this series, but it's still a mystery to most, even to the filmmakers that you admire. Exercise! When watching films, think how you could have made it your own. Not better, but yours. Your own personal take on that story. What would you change to make the film say what you want it to say? And remember, you don't want to make it better. You're just asking yourself, what would you change to make it feel like you?
You get ideas from 2 things coming together. You get ideas from things that you have seen and thought and known about, and then something else that you've seen and thought and known about, and the realization that you can just collide those things.
Kind of like when you're cooking with only the ingredients in your kitchen, and you put it all together. Sometimes it's terrible. Other times it's perhaps amazing and unique. And probably many dishes were actually even invented like that. Yet it's very common to feel intimidated with coming up with a big idea. Especially when I was young, I was always looking for that. The idea that would change the world, being super unique and super cool. But the more I grow old, the more I start understanding that it's not really about what the idea is, but how you tell it. Because the thing is, although I still struggle to admit, every story has already been told. How you tell it is up to you. And that's what will make it special and interesting for an audience. So please, let go of the fear of being unique and just start looking around you for stories. You probably watch a lot of films, and a lot of ideas come from that experience. You think of an interesting premise, or maybe even a different take on that character or that situation. But something I learned in film school was to just look around. Sometimes I was just so focused on my writing or my reading that I neglected a lot of interesting things happening all around me. Driving the tube every morning is full of little stories and scenes, and I can't imagine how many I missed while I stuffed my face on storytelling books, which weirdly enough are always written by people who have never made a successful film.
Stop! I'm on mobile, shoot!
So instead, I advise you to look around. But not just look like most people do. Carefully watch the world around you. The people, their reactions, their behaviors, their looks, their clothes, their interactions, the way they carry themselves, and much more. Sometimes you'll even find beautiful symbolic images, which will make you regret not having taken your camera with you. Exercise. In the streets, pick a random person and start imagining things about them, from general to specific, writing them down. What is her name? How old is she? What does she do? Where is she going? What did she have for breakfast? Does she have a family? What are her kids' names? Does she prefer her steaks rare or well done? Does she love her husband? How did the two meet? And where? Was it rainy? Etc. etc. Observation is one of the most important skills for a filmmaker, as you realize that life is actually very cinematic.
Nothing happens in the world? Are you out of your mind? Every day, somewhere in the world, somebody sacrifices his life to save somebody else. Every day, someone somewhere takes a conscious decision to destroy someone else. People find love, people lose it. Someone goes hungry. Somebody else betrays his best friend for a woman. If you can't find that stuff in life, then you, my friend, don't know crap about life.
Life is cinematic, but remember to always write it down. We have phones now, so use them for something more than just mindlessly scrolling through Instagram. Use them to record your notes straight after you observe them. You might confidently think, oh, I'll remember it, no worries. And it's true that you'll remember the gist of the scene, the idea or the character, but maybe not the small specific details that made it special in the first place. It happens to me all the time, and I still make that mistake. So don't be as stubborn as I am. And don't look just at others, but also within yourself and your own family, friends, relationships. It can be very traumatic sometimes, I know, but probably the reason why you're afraid to talk about it means it would be amazing for a film. Tip: don't be afraid to show too much of yourself. Creating some powerful moments and scenes will require you to explore vulnerable and uncomfortable places. And to really do so, it requires you to look within yourself, into the memories you have suppressed and don't want to talk about with anyone.
A writer moves about, observing, seeing as much as he can, trying to guess how man will play the game. He's a magnet, passing through a factual world, taking from it what he needs.
I definitely feel like that. Every funny interaction that I have with someone, or especially any sad or bittersweet moment, I look at it through the lenses of poetry, irony, and I try to see how that could be an interesting moment, an interesting scene, an interesting character, or even an interesting idea to explore. There's definitely been some moments when I'm arguing with someone and one of us says a beautiful line of dialogue, or even a series of lines, and I'm taken out of the moment, thinking, that's a great line, and just hoping to end the situation as soon as possible to write it down. Do you know how to spot a writer at a funeral? He's the only one not looking at the casket. His eyes are focused on the people, their behaviors, and their reactions to what is happening.
Interesting.
Exercise. Think about a moment from your life that really stands out for you. Think about a time when you were deeply embarrassed, or when you did something you regret. Think of a secret you are afraid to talk about. Maybe think even of the saddest moment of your life, or the biggest disappointment, or even the funniest moment. Write freely and honestly about these moments, no matter how uncomfortable you might feel doing so. Remember that you need to get out of your comfort zone if you truly want to write something special. See where all of this leads you. Maybe you'll have a few story ideas, or scenes, characters, or even a whole script right in front of you. Just remember, everything in your life is drama, and drama is gold, so you better mine it.